Corporations aren't individuals, sorry. And it's sort of...
They're associations of individuals.
You know, the Constitution is protecting the freedom of the individual for right to assembly, freedom of speech. I mean, you're going back to this idea of freedom of speech, and giving money, it falls underneath that freedom of speech. So this association of individuals is huge. I mean, you need to look at the reality of the result of that. You know, corporate America ends up being able to plow unlimited money into different races. So if there's a, I mean, there's a heartbreaking picture of strip mining up behind us. I mean, take a look at that picture. You know, I mean, a corporation run by the Koch brothers, for instance, who are kind of billionaires fermenting a lot of the Tea Party movement and everything else. They're an oil company that has been fighting every environmental law that's ever been put out to them. And they want to strip, they want untrammeled access, they want to strip, use their influence to strip all the environmental laws. I mean, this is the reality of what's going on. So you can take this and turn it into that.
To make Prius batteries.
You know, pardon?
To make Prius batteries and your iPhone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but there are ways to do it that one is that way, and there are different ways to do it. So if they want to change a law, an environmental law, if they want to do whatever they need to do to just, you know, do it, they can dump all the money that they can. And in fact, they did in Wisconsin with the governor. They were backed by the Koch brothers. And the first thing that this guy's doing is he wants to bust the union. So it's all really intentional and really connected. So to be philosophical is great, but let's look at the reality of allowing corporations untrammeled. You know.
Should a company own another? Next question.
Should a company own another?
Yes or no?
I don't know.
First of all, thank you very much, because look, I really appreciate that. It would be very useful and valuable for me. And I wanted to ask, as many of us seem to be in the middle of where you two are, what do you two both agree on what progress or what advancement is? Yes, so what do you agree what advancement would be?
That was one form of agreement. Can you elaborate a little more?
Okay, well, I suppose what I've learned is that I've always thought I was before coming to this, I always thought I was a liberal or progressive, but if you're saying modern conservatism is a guardian of classical liberalism, in that case I would be a modern conservative. So I always thought what you were saying is the same thing as return to values you're talking about is what I've always believed what progressivism is about. So there has to be a similarity, seeing as I've always thought that progressivism is that, you know, motivated by that.
Well, okay. I'm so glad you came tonight. It's a big wake-up call. Let's say a few words about progressivism and its history. If you look in 2 minutes, if you look up Herbert Crowley's *The Promise of America*, or if you examine the administration of Bismarck in Germany, where it began over there. If you look into Woodrow Wilson and the advancement of the progressivism and the progressive agenda, all of these things, they were the soft version, really social democratic version of Marxism, which was the ultimate progressive ideology. The notion that fairness and equality could actually be instituted amongst flawed and tragic human beings, that you could actually get equality with an incredible herd of beings who have absolutely distinct human gifts, one from another. Instead, the conservative and the classical liberal is interested in a republic in which each one's unique gift, special gift, has the chance for full flowering, and the inevitable consequence is inequality, not equality. And that's just the way it is, folks.
way, it always ends up with the commies, you know? It's always, it's always you know, anything that's progressive, so it's like, okay, so we're going to end up with Marxism. And I'm not a Marxist, I'm a capitalist. I have a small business, I've just started another one, I've been a part of 4 startups in my life. You know, it's to say, okay, you know, this is where it ends up in communism is just wrong. I think progressives now, and we're not talking about the history, but right now, progressives are more interested in what's going to work and what's going to create the greatest good for the most amount of people. Of course there is going to be inequality, you know. There are different, we're given different God-given abilities and you know, different, for whatever reasons, desires and ambitions and everything. I'm not disputing that. Mark's absolutely right there. You know, but what I'm hoping for, and what I think progressives are hoping for, is that that child that's growing up in Appalachia, you know, gets enough food, gets enough education, gets enough, you know, yes, engineering, if you would, in his first 2 or 3 years of his life, so that he can then grow up to become a person that can fulfill his full potential. That's what my idea of progressivism is, which is just to allow people the ability to get onto the playing field and then grow. And by the way, it's actually better for the country in terms of a capitalist enterprise, in terms of how much money we have to actually spend on these people once they're grown up. I mean, the United States has 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the people in jail, you know? And, you know, we can put the money in early and turn them into productive citizens, or we can put them, you know, take care of them later, or jail them later.
This question is for Arthur, actually to clarify this exact issue. So I think most of us, if not all of us, agree in equality of opportunity and equality under the law. And if someone creates a business and is very successful, good for them. We have a progressive tax system. Top tax bracket taxes them, as you say, perhaps enough. Great. But you're also suggesting something slightly different, which relates more to equality of outcome. Greatest good for the greatest number. A strong middle class, not too much income disparity. How do you reconcile the two?
I think you reconcile it with the progressive tax system. You know? And you know, there are programs that are set up. I mean, if you look at the last 30 years, the middle class in terms of income is just flat. It's flat. You know, and the top 1%, as I've stated in my overly statistical opening, is just, they've had a party. They've really done well. So why aren't they willing to plow it back into you know, creating a society which has a stronger middle class? You know, I mean, which is going to help to elevate the poor up into the middle class, which is going to help, by the way, our economy, because it's the middle class that actually buys stuff. When you give the middle class a tax break, which Obama did, 98% of us all got a tax break when Obama came in, right? Anybody making under $250,000 got a tax break. Let us not forget that. You know, so we're pretty far from communism under Obama. You know, so that middle class will go out and spend that money. You know, when you hire teachers to educate people, you know, those teachers have to spend that money. When you take a hedge fund manager that's got $1 billion, right, and you give him the tax break, that money, I mean, I know the right wing is fond of saying they're going to create jobs. Now that money goes into a CD somewhere and makes more money from that person. That's not creating anything that's broadly good. So my response is, and what I'm really interested in, is shoring up the middle class and just giving the middle class its due, because that's what creates the strongest societies. And the weakest societies are the ones with the biggest income disparity. So what do we do now that we're approaching 1% of the population with 24% of the income? What are we doing? Is that America? Is that where we want to be? That's, no. I want a strong middle class.
All right.
You can move on.
Marvin, you had mentioned something along the lines of when you legislate compassion goes out the window. Something.
And when compassion is coerced, that's the only thing that can kill it.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear an example of that. Because as Arthur pointed out, you guys have really been fighting very, very hard against every single socially compassionate program that's made a difference in this country in the past 50, possibly even 100 years. I mean, you guys fought heavily against Social Security, heavily against Medicare. These are things that we now take for granted in this country as absolute bare minimum compassion for people. And before Social Security, friends and neighbors were not pouring out of their homes to help the elderly. Maybe they were on a particular block, but as a country, no. That's why we need Social Security and we need Medicare and we need health care. I don't see any evidence of this notion that unless compassion is coerced, anyone's going to be compassionate.